salary package in one of the topmost IT organizations, then I hope you guys would be knowing the answers of all these questions that have been jotted down over here, right? But if the answer is no, then I would request all of you to please pay a very good attention, because today, in today's topic, we are going to cover these three questions as of now, and I would be giving the demo of all these questions because these are the most important questions that are mostly asked, and people do not know the answer of these questions, right? So the very first thing that we need to understand is that what is the need to be static in Java, right? So static is just a keyword in Java. And what do we mean by a keyword? Okay, so in order to understand, I'll give you guys a brief demo, but first try to get along with the theoretical portion. So keywords are your some predefined words that will give some special meaning to the code. So what is meant by giving some special meaning to the code? So that your code can understand what that variable or what that method is all about, right? What it is going to do, how it will act, how it will behave, right? Just I'd like to give you an example that in your organization, some people are managers, some are QA, some are developers. So if it is written in front of name that developer X or QA X or QA Y, it simply means that everybody in your organization will be able to communicate with you in an easy manner, that you are a QA, let's have some QA discussion with you guys. If you are a developer, let's have some dev kind of oriented issues, let's discuss with you guys, right? So these are some predefined words, and they give some special meaning to the code. So let's come back to the demo session over here. So what I mean by keywords, if I write just like a, so it does not means anything. Even if I give some value to this particular letter, a equals 20, is it meaning anything? No. But if I write integer int a equals to 20, right? So now it means that this variable a is of type integer. Okay, if I write string ab equals xyz, let's say, now it means that this ab is going to be treated as like a string, right? So this basically means that it is going to give some sort of special privileges to all these variables that we are going to use over here, right? So a will be treated as integer and ab will be treated as string. Whenever we are trying to make use of all these things, all these variables, they would be treated the way they have been defined, right? A developer cannot be treated like a QA, or a QA cannot be treated like a developer, although it may happen in Agile and Scrum. That is a different topic, but this is what Java is all about. Okay, so this is what this particular line means, that keywords are reserved or predefined words that give some special meaning to the code. So I would be writing some piece of code over here, and these keywords are going to give some special meaning to my code, right? That how my variables are going to behave. The third thing is that why this concept came, that why this static keyword even came into existence. So it is basically mainly used for memory management. So what is memory management? Allow me to give a small demo, but for that you guys need to pay a very close attention, right? Let's say I'm going to define an integer of type a equals, let's say, 20. So what kind of variable is this? This is a global variable of non-static type, right? So let's say if I'm going to create an object of this particular class, let's say object1 equals new, and this is the way how we create an object. I hope you guys are familiar with this particular way or manner. So if I try to call it over here, just allow me to print the value of this variable so that you are able to understand what I'm talking about. If I just print it out over here, it will give me value as 20. Okay, so I created a variable that is a global variable of type integer and assigned it a particular value, right? So by default, the value of integer is 0. I hope you guys have watched my previous lectures. If not, then please have a look onto that particular lecture. You will be able to understand difference between local, global and static variables, right? I have defined, but again I'm going to reiterate everything over here. Okay, so very first time when you create an object over here and if you run it, it is going to keep your updated value over here. Okay, let's say I create another object over here. Now something, another thing would happen. right? Let's say I'm going to create an object to obj2, obj2 dot a. Now I'm trying to call, okay? Again I'm calling, again the value is being getting as the same, right? Till now, so far everything seems to be good. Since, so you would be thinking that the value, this value of this variable is 20, so every time you create an object it is going to retain the same value, right? Till now it might seem good to you guys, okay? But let's say I do something else. Over here I try to change the value of this via this particular object dot a. Let's say I try to define it as 30 over here. So now what should be the output? Should it be 2020 or 2030? Let's try to run it out and we'll say that it is 2030. So now the value of this variable got changed when this object got created. Okay. So first time we created, you might see that initially it was 20, so it printed 20. Okay, fine. Again, we changed it. That is why it is printing 30. Now the magic would happen if I create another object over here. Please try to give a very close attention what I'm trying to say. Now, if I'm going to print this particular variable, it is giving me 20. Why it is giving me 20? Because these global variables, which are of non-static type, every time an object is being getting created over here, they will retain that original value that was being defined earlier at the topmost. Okay, if the original value of this variable was 10, so no matter how many times I create an object, it will, every time I create an object, it will retain its original initialized value, right? It's going to retain its original initialized value. I hope everybody is able to understand what I'm trying to say over here. So your non-static global variables are going to retain their original initialized value no matter how many times you create an object or no matter how many times you change its value. Let's say this time I change this value as 50. Again, it's going to, retain the same original initialized value, right? But what if I make it as a static? So allow me to create another static. Let's say b equals 5. Okay, static b equals 5. Sorry, that was an integer. Now I'm going to create an object again. I'm going to create a fourth object, guys, this time. Let's say this is the fourth object, this is the fifth object. Okay, yes, I'm just sharing the naming convention. Please be with me at the end of this lecture. Every concept would be, you guys would be able to understand. Okay, this should be 5, this should be 5, and this should be 4. Okay, just run it. What is happening over here, right? See, so the very first time, this is my code over here, and then I will go one by one. First time we created an object, the value of this global variable was declared as 10. This is a non-static, again I'm repeating, right? So non-static, it was 10. Again it got changed, it got 50. Again you created an object, you did not change its value, it is still retaining its original value, right? But what about this? Every time I'm going to create an object, it's going to retain the same value, right? So you must be thinking that it is happening same with object 1 and object 3. No, it is not the same concept, because even after its value got changed over here, see over here, value of this non-static variable got changed. Then it does not mean that whenever a new object is created, is being getting created, it will retain its updated value. No, it will not happen in case of non-static variable. Non-static variable are always going to retain their original initialized value whenever an object is being getting created. Please note it down somewhere if you are getting, forgetting the concept, right? But in case of static variable, allow me to change the value of the static variable over here. Then you will be able to understand. Let's say obj5 dot a equals 90, right? Allow me to print it. So now it has printed like dot 4 dot a is printing me the value as 10. Sorry, it should be, sorry, it should be b, right? My mistake, I'm just changing its value. It should be b. Okay, so this time It has printed 5. The value of the static variable was 5. Okay, now I changed it to 90. It got changed the same way it is happening over here. Initially it was 10, then it was 50, right? But the third time it was again 10 because it was retaining its original value. But let's see what happens in case of static variable. Please pay a very very close attention. Everybody would be able to understand, because nobody would be going to tell you these concepts in so much of so much detailing, right? Allow me to delete this particular line and try to call it now. See, there is a difference between static and non-static variable. Non-static variable value once changed, every time you create a new object, still original value was getting retained, right? But in case of static variables, once you change the value, they will now keep their only updated value, right? If even once you change the value of a static variable, just like over here, every time you create an object, they are going to retain their most updated value. Now they will forget 5, right? It's just like that in your organization. Let's say in your organization, once you are a QA, right? From QA, if you become uh, let's say test lead, right? Then it will never happen that you are going to get back from test lead to QA. You become like a static. Let's say you are a static QA, right? If you are a static QA, you will become a static test lead, right? It will never happen that you will again become a QA. And if you once become a manager or you become a CEO, you are not going to backtrack. You are going to retain your most updated value or most updated designation. The same way it is happening with the static variables as well, right? So I hope I have made some sense. And guys, this is the best of my abilities, which I can make you guys understand, right? So it is mainly used for memory management. So why it is used for memory management? Because every time a value is being getting changed, let's say 50 times I am changing values and 50 objects are being getting created, right? So 50 multiplied by 2 gives you 100, right? So 50 lines of code are getting wasted over here. But if I make this variable as a static variable, see, its value is being initialized to each and every object created, that is newly created, and the value is the same, right? So there is efficient memory utilization when you declare a variable as static. I hope my point is clear, right? And static variable retains its last updated value, unlike global variables, unlike non-static. I should update it over here. Non-static global variables, which share the original initialized value every time an object is created. So guys, I hope these 4 points are clear to you. And this is the need to be static in Java, so that we can make use of efficient memory allocation, efficient memory optimization in Java. It can happen. And once you declare a variable as static, it will going to keep its most updated value, the way I have uh, told you guys over here, right? So the second important question that you guys need to understand is that what is the order of execution among constructor, instance method, and static block. So this is very very important. I am going to give a demo for you guys over here so that you're able to understand, because if we are not understanding this particular concept, that we won't be able to clear our technical rounds of interviews. This is the most important asked question and most frequently, right? So even if you are a fresher or you are experienced guy, we should be able to understand the order of execution, right? So first try to create, I'll create a static block over here. I'll try to create a static block over here. I'll just try to print something over here. Let's say I am in static block, right? So this is your static block. Let's quickly create a constructor over here as well. Just copy it out. I hope everybody knows how to create a constructor. I just gave you a demo, each and everything about constructor. That too, 2 lectures I created so that everybody is able to understand what constructor is all about, right? Print something inside this particular constructor as well. I am in constructor. Okay, let's try to create a particular instance method. Let's say public void Java. Let's try to print something over here so that everybody is able to understand. We are still learning Java. Let's say for better improvement. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so try allow me to create an object of this particular class. Let's say object A equals new. Okay, inside a main method. Now I am trying to call this Java. And now let's see what is the order of execution. First, I created a static block over here, control A, and if don't those guys who do not know in editor how to indent it, control A, control I, right? Everything would be done in a proper manner so that it starts looking good. So I created a static block over here. I created a constructor of this particular class. I created an object of this particular class. Sorry, I created a method of this class, and now I created an object. And with the help of this object or reference variable, I'm trying to call this method. So what should get printed first? Most people say that Java starts its execution from the main method. So it means that, firstly, a.java, which means that we are learning Java for better improvement, should get printed onto this particular console first, right? But that would not be the case. I'm going to run it. So now what is printed first? I am in static block, then I am in constructor, and then this instance method. So the order of execution that we have defined is that first static block will get executed, then your constructor is going to get executed, and then your method is going to get executed, right? So I hope you guys are able to understand, and I have given you a very small demo as well, right? Now coming back to the third and very important question: why is Java always having main method as a static, right? So this is the reason why I have done the sequencing onto this particular manner, because so that you are able to understand the order of execution of all these, right? Then I have jotted down this question. So first thing, why Java is main method is always static. So first reason that you can give to everyone, that so that compiler can call it without creation of an object, or even before the creation of an object of the class. So what does it mean by creating an object of a class? So over here, guys, and when I was giving you a demo, when I created a sixth object, so I was creating an object, right? So every time I'm creating an object, some memory is being getting utilized in Java, right? If I am creating three objects, if I'm creating six objects, let's say 6 MB of memory is getting utilized, it is getting wasted, right? So, and let's say there is not one class, let's say there are 500 classes that are going to be executed in months, right? And for 500 classes, if even one object is required, right, one line of code is required. So 500 different objects would be required, right? 500 objects would be required to run the main method, let's say, for example, okay? So that we can call anything, right? But this is the reason why it has been defined as a static. We define main method as static, so that compiler is able to call it easily without creating an object, because creation of an object will make use of some sort of memory, and whenever a memory is being used, it is simply getting wasted. If you are using memory for once your JVM runs, and it a class gets loaded, in order to execute that object is not required, because the object creation will use some memory, and there would be some memory wasted. So in order to avoid that, your main method is always declared as a static over here, right? And what will happen if your main method is not declared static over here? Has anyone run this particular program previously? Let's try to run it. Something would happen over here. So what it is saying? It is saying that main method is not static in class com.understand.static keyword. Understanding, this is my class name. Please define the main method as public static void main. So it is deliberately asking you to declare it as a static method. Okay. Why? Because JVM may get confused. Because if it's not static, let's say this is your constructor, right? Let's say I have to pass a value over here, like string test, right? So whenever an object of this class is called, then this constructor would be getting called. See, as soon as I created a constructor over here, allow me to pass some value over here. Let's say I'm giving my name as well, okay? So whenever you call an object of this particular class, you have to pass this into the constructor, and now try to run it again. This will start giving you some sort of error, because JVM may get confused, whether to call to constructor, and if I'm going to call this constructor, what should I pass, right? So JVM may get confused. So in order to avoid that, this main method is always kept as static over here, right? This can be a topic for even further more deep dive discussion, but for your interview purposes, even if you try to give this particular example or these three ways, I think that would be sufficient for you guys as of now, because if I start giving you guys demo onto this particular point, this will take entire 30 minutes more, because this is a bit a tricky object. I have just noted one down, and I've just tried to show you guys, what if your main method is not declared as a static, what will happen, and why it is getting confused. Why? Because it does not know what to pass over here, and there are other variations over here. There are a lot of test cases or edge cases you can uh, think as of now, right? So that is beyond the scope, but still, I hope you've got a clear cut idea of what these questions are all about. So till now we have discussed what is the need of static in Java, what is the order of execution, and why is always Java main method static. So the primary reason is efficient memory optimization. You can describe it onto different ways by giving different number of examples. Okay, and let's let's take this question as well. Okay, so over here, can we make use of static local variables in Java? So this is also a question in which one of the guys got confused. Let's try to make use of it. Let's try to understand what it is trying to say. Okay. So what is local variable? There is entire technical lecture that I've given for entire 30 to 45 minutes. Please have a look onto that particular stuff. But at this point of time, let's say I am going to create a method public void test, and anything that is being defined over here is local to this particular method, right? So let's say if I define a variable like integer a equals to 10, okay, it's fine. But if you say static integer b equals 20, this is not fine. Java will start giving some compiling error, illegal modifier, right? So why it is giving error? Why it is not allowing you to do or perform such an operation? Why? Because the answer is written over here. This is why I have highlighted it with two asterisk, and these asterisk I have integrated over here, which means that answer of this question is related to this particular question answer, right? So whenever you declare a variable as a static, it means that that variable is meant for the whole class. You cannot define a static variable over here. If you define your static variable over here, it will start working in a proper manner, right? See, it is not taking it even inside the main method, because now its scope is limited to the main method. But if the entire concept of making variable as a static is that it should be at the class level, so that it becomes as a whole, right? It is meant for your whole class, so that entire class can access it in a proper way and efficient manner, right? So what I've written over here, let's try to understand it with the time machine concept. Why I've written it over here? Because this is meant for the whole class, and if you are trying to call it inside that inside this particular method, then it simply means that you are violating or creating a paradoxical environment for the entire concept that was being brought for your static variables, right? It was meant for the whole class, and now you are making it local. So that does not make sense. If you are defined for a bigger purpose, how can I make you confined for a smaller purpose, right? So even in normal life it may happen. If you are willing to do a very big job, you cannot be confined to a very small locality or an area or a region, right? Yourself will start giving some sort of error. So this is what it's all about. Let's say, for example, I'm taking a time machine as an example. Let's say there is a time machine over here, right? So there is a time that you can go back to, let's say, 60 years from now, right? If you go back to 60 years from now, you can also make existence of some people totally vanish, right? And if existence of some people are vanished, then how their offsprings are today, live and working as of now. So, you can go to the past, you can make something totally disappear, but still that thing is appearing over now. So that is a paradoxical kind of environment. So, it is totally, in contrast with itself. So this is why the whole concept of, making use of static local variables is totally a foolish kind of thing, right? They are totally meant for a class. If a variable is defined as a static, it is meant for the class. It cannot be, used inside a method that to or define its scope locally, right? So I've given you guys enough reasons to ponder upon, and I hope you guys have liked this particular lecture and enjoyed it, right? So thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. Thank you.